Hey guys, welcome back to the Lunge podcast. Today we are rejoined by a very special guest, Mr. Sam Kitching. His previous episode 61, was for a really long time top of the Lunge charts. So if you haven't listened to it, please go check it out. And Sam is back today to try and reclaim his spot at the top of the podium. Since last time we spoke, Sam has taken a new job as GM for NoBull in Europe. And in today's discussion, we're going to get into what the core values of NoBull are and how they've been instrumental in their success. We also talk about their branching out into other sports beyond CrossFit and how they have a very stringent selection policy for choosing the athletes that they partner with. But before we get into it, as always, a big thank you to our show sponsors, thetrainingstimulus.com. We have just upgraded the Movement Mechanics Mentorship Program. So if you are a coach or PT or healthcare professional wanting to get a next level understanding of movement, to learn a detailed and structured assessment protocol to help your clients or athletes improve the way they move, as well as develop a high definition coach's eye, please check out the website to learn more. As always, a thank you to wit-fitness.com. Please use discount code LL15 to get 15% off your WIT kit. And to Hydro for all your blood flow restriction apparel, use discount code LL20 to get 20% off your purchase. Right, let's get into it. Kitch, welcome back to the show. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, feeling good. Nice to be back. We were just saying, obviously, it doesn't feel like, well, I feel like the last year a lot has happened, obviously, hence the podcast. But it seems to have gone very, very quickly. It's actually scary how quickly time is going at the moment, isn't it?
Yep.
So yeah, can't believe it's July already.
Yeah. Mental.
Yeah, nuts. So for those who might not have heard of you, we did a previous episode with Sam, episode 61, which is well worth a listen when he was back at WIT. But since then, he has moved over to be GM of NoBull Europe. And for those who aren't familiar with NoBull, could you give us a quick overview? Why is the company called NoBull and what's it all about?
So NoBull, again, from my background at WIT, that was obviously where I was first introduced to the brand. And NoBull, similar to WIT, was a brand that was born out of the CrossFit community. And it really understood off the bat, like what it wanted to stand for and, what it was going to stand for. And it was to be a training brand, for people who work hard and don't believe in excuses. That, as I say, was born out of the CrossFit community. And NoBull has a great kind of background. So Michael and Marcus, who are the two co-founders of NoBull, were both senior leadership at Reebok. And that's where they actually got exposed to CrossFit. So they did CrossFit, through Reebok's kind of relationship with CrossFit itself. And they fell in love with it. And then when they actually moved on from Reebok, they created an agency called Bold & Co, where they basically incubated some of their own brands as well as working with other brands. And one of the brands that was kind of born out of Bold & Co was NoBull. And NoBull was basically to stand for no bullshit. And when they were at Reebok, it was really interesting because I feel like there was too much of that and they wanted to get away from that. And that's basically how NoBull was grown. And as I say, I think the thing that's so impressive about NoBull, and one of the reasons I definitely joined the team, was just because they really knew what they stood for and what they wanted to kind of deliver and how they wanted to build their brand. And so NoBull has kind of been founded in 2014, really got going, I think, in 2015. And then, the kind of last 6-7 years have been pretty crazy for them. And for me, definitely very excited to be part of the team and part of it. So, yeah.
I always
Amazing.
thought NoBull was the no leather. That's what.
Oh, really?
That's what I remember being told, because I was like, "What was the NoBull?" They go, "Oh, it's because they don't use cow's leather for things." I was like, "Is it?" Oh, fair enough. So that's something new. I didn't know. It was just no bullshit. I like it.
Yeah, it's literally. So and within our code of conduct, it's again something that I'm really kind of keen on, and something that again really pulled me in was just they have a really simple, code of conduct, which is I'll actually go through it. We trust you, average sucks, be bold or don't bother, whatever, whenever, wherever, be a work in progress, don't be an ass. And I think don't be an ass, is definitely a big thing that kind of resonates throughout the business and the people that kind of are part of it and the culture that's been created. But yeah, Be Real is after that, and Be Real is definitely, we don't have a problem with the bulls, but we can't deal with the shit part. Don't bullshit, be real. So that kind of line in there really kind of, I guess, shows, show what it's all about. But yeah, there you go.
That's great. I think having such strong values underpins the growth of a company like that, in that the values just scale quite easily. I think a lot of businesses might chase money and just seek growth, but something that is very apparent with every interaction I've had with NoBull is that there seems to be this consistent theme in everything that they do, whether it's the products, the people, the social media content that comes out. And I think having such clear brand values does really show. And especially in the CrossFit space, having that people who train hard and don't believe in excuses resonates with the consumer as well, straight from the team. So with that in mind, Kitch, could you perhaps give us a bit of insight into how NoBull is trying to separate itself from the competitive market, and so many brands now trying to get into this CrossFit space in this subcategory of training? What are the key distinguishing features that NoBull is trying to separate itself from the competition with?
I think, again, and I don't know if you guys or any of the kind of listeners have heard Todd speak, who's the CMO, but he's never ever really looked at what others are doing, and it's always about like our community. We're fully appreciative that NoBull was born out of the CrossFit community, who have amazing values, and we've basically taken those values and they have become like the kind of foundation to NoBull. And I think, I've always worked off the mindset, treat others how you'd want to be treated. And again, when we look at things like our code of conduct, that is throughout that code of conduct, and the culture is everything at NoBull. And then that means that we make good decisions, I feel. And the consumer and the community really feels it. So that's where, I feel that they can feel that we are doing things in a meaningful way. And hopefully over the last kind of 6 months in what we've done in the UK, that's kind of been shown, especially by things that we've done with regards to like the Open, and, something I was super proud of. And I think that really aligns with what you've just said there, Ash, with regards to like, I went around multiple gyms prior to the opening happening, and I wanted to truly understand what was important to them about NoBull as a brand, but also important to them about the Open itself. And it was so consistent. Like, what they loved about NoBull was how we treated the athletes at the CrossFit Games, and that stuck with me. But then also everyone was saying, and something I definitely am aware of from being a member of an affiliate, was just like how the coaches go above and beyond to put the Open on. So what we actually did was we took that information and we said, right, how do we make the coaches effectively feel, like those athletes do when they go to the CrossFit Games? And that's where we came up with the kind of 2 locations in London where we did this Open experience, and they were greeted by NoBull team members, and then they got this kind of full locker room experience just to thank them. And we were just thanking them because we genuinely meant it, and it was done in a meaningful way. And I do believe that other brands kind of lose sight of that, and don't actually have a true understanding on why they're, acting in that way or doing something and it's not that they're not, positive things that these other brands are doing. They're just, maybe they don't truly, I feel, understand the community. And I feel because we were born out of the community, and the community itself has really influenced our success, but also how we kind of operate and work and what we stand for. I think that's why we have like that meaningful and real relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely feel that is something which you really it resonates with me a lot when you look at brands like NoBull and some of the other newer brands that are coming in. Is with the fact there are so many brands, it is still people are buying people, and people are buying the experience that business is offering, because everyone sells trainers, everyone sells t-shirts, everyone sells hats, everyone's selling this stuff. So it's like, it's the difference between them all might be slight, and you might have a better training shoe or a better fitting t-shirt, a better fitting whatever. But it's then when someone feels proud to wear that kit, especially with something like NoBull, it's always written across the chest. It's very clear. You see someone wearing a NoBull top, you're like, you kind of getting this picture of what that person does, or that person's like lifestyle. And for me anyway, when I see someone walking with a NoBull t-shirt, I'm like, right, that person's probably into fitness. They're probably conscious of their health. Like they think about more. So it is really impressive to see what companies like NoBull, Rad, Wit as a whole, like, it is that culture of like you're adding more to the brand than just the t-shirt itself or just the shoes.
Yeah, and again, I think, with where businesses and brands are going, like I think people will see through it if it's not a genuine, meaningful relationship. And we're very fortunate that our foundations and our business has been built off that, and Michael and Marcus are just really good people, and that is, they have created the culture, and that culture is everything. And it's something that we need to continue to kind of remind ourselves of, and especially as we scale and we grow. NoBull's crazy. It was like I knew Michael, Marcus, and Todd as a 3, and now it's 200 plus employees. It's crazy, and it's getting obviously big. But we just need to make sure we don't lose sight of where we came from and what we stand for and how we want to kind of work with the community. And as I say, like with the UK specifically, it's been a pleasure because I've really been able to do that. I've been able to really kind of show the community, who we are as a brand and what we stand for in a really meaningful way, and being supported by the US business and being supported by people like Marcus to go and do it. So it's just been, the best 6 months in that sense, because it's just been awesome. And, I know you guys have been a part of it a little bit as well. So, you got a taste of it, but hopefully there's more to come.
Brilliant. I just want to rewind quickly, Kitch. You've referenced how you got the job briefly, but it's quite a cool story as to how NoBull approached you to take the role. Could you give us a bit of insight as to how that came about, please?
Well, yeah, there's a bit of thanks to you guys, actually. So I'll tell you that, so backdated, like Marcus actually approached me a couple of years ago about potentially joining NoBull, and I was obviously flattered at the time. In 2018 was when I really appreciated where NoBull was going, just from obviously seeing their market share and understanding their success through WIT. But when he approached me, probably 2020, 2019, I was like, well, WIT's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. I've still got a load to learn. So kind of thanks, but no thanks. And then in COVID, obviously we did our podcast, which was awesome, the first podcast. And Todd, the CMO, was listened to the podcast and listened to kind of what I had to say and obviously the questions that you asked. And at that time, they knew that they had to make a move for a GM in Europe, and they were interviewing execs from Nike, Crocs, Adidas, and they couldn't find the right fit because they were concerned that some, the people they were interviewing were super, talented, but didn't truly understand, the community and understand how kind of NoBull had got here, and understand like how we needed to kind of make sure that was the kind of starting point for what we did in Europe. So he listened to that podcast. So, Todd listened to that podcast, and he went back to Marcus and said, we have to hire Kitch. Like Kitch is the person that we need, and we need to try harder. So Marcus actually rang me and asked again, if I would join, and kind of said, this is the last time I'm going to ask you. And I just had to take a moment. Like I wasn't planning it. I took a moment. Like everybody in COVID, I guess we all had time to think. And my thought process was, life is short. There's a huge amount for us as, humans and individuals to learn, and to learn, we need to kind of continue to be exposed to other people and other scenarios and other businesses and other brands. So, I actually just, I had to think about it, and I thought, what, I'm going to do this, and left WIT in great hands with Dan and the team, and, and just joined something a little bit bigger and something that could help me again learn as an individual and hopefully become a better leader because of it. But yeah, thanks to you guys, really. I think it pushed them over the edge to kind of say, right, we need to be more aggressive with this. So thank you.
It's our pleasure, mate. Yeah. So anyone listening, if you want to get yourself a European GM job, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's only 33% of first year salary, isn't it? It's only got bank details. Yeah, that's brilliant, mate. And it's great to see you.
Yeah, congrats, mate. It's great. Well. For me as well. It's I think you can just see it in yourself as well. I think like you look like you've thrived in the last 6 months. It seems like your life has been like, it was like essentially turned upside down and then full gas, and it's been great to see. And you're training a lot as well at the moment, which is how you finding that? How is it getting back into training and being fit?
Yeah, well, it's again so different from obviously with WIT, and it was just because it was our business, and NoBull is definitely hard work, and you got to put the effort in, but it is a very, very different situation to running your own company. And I guess with me and Dan at Wit, you just, it's hard, it's tiring, it's 24/7, you just can't switch off in any way. And I had lost all balance. And I think on top of that, COVID obviously didn't help. So I did have a huge amount of time to kind of reflect at the back end of last year and when I was at NoBull and get that balance back, because I started to realize actually I'm in my best place and happiest when I have balance. And, when I am training 3 or 4 times a week, when I am running a couple times a week, when I am actually giving myself some time in the evening to kind of wind down and enjoy the weekends with my friends. And I'd lost all of that when, at the back end of Wit. And so, yeah, NoBull has been awesome for that. And NoBull is very, very good at making sure that balance is a big part of it. And, NoBull really encourages you to take that time. And, Fridays are example. We have kind of summer Fridays. So Friday afternoons at NoBull, everyone has off. And we kind of encourage people to go and train and do some form of exercise and just be outdoors. So, yeah, no, it's been really, really good. And I'm definitely operating at my best. And I would say, like, I wasn't in that place maybe a year ago. So, yeah, super, super happy. And I love, loving it. And I'm really enjoying running, actually, because I've, as you guys know, I'm very much a kind of cherry picker when it comes to CrossFit and workouts, and still haven't kind of worked out how to do a pull up or a muscle up or whatever. But yeah, running is just kind of easy, isn't it? So I quite enjoy that, and I've enjoyed getting back into that.
That's brilliant.
So, yeah,
Kitch, you mentioned that you were chosen because you had a good understanding of the community, and obviously your role is GM of Europe. So what is the plan, vision, or goals for NoBull in making a bigger footprint in the European market?
For me, so I've tried to kind of mold, some things that I really admire and appreciate from some of the bigger brands that I've worked with. I was influenced by Nike's key city strategy and have a true appreciation how these bigger cities like London, Berlin, and Paris can influence either, the country itself as a whole, but also the continent as a whole. But what it also allows you to do is to focus instead of trying to do everything at once. So that helped me create kind of a foundation to I guess, my approach. And then with NoBull and understanding, what did the first 3 years entail, and kind of condensing that a little bit and saying, like, we need to go out and do that. It's quite simple. Like, the grassroots work and the community is what's going to build this brand in Europe, and we need to go and connect with them. And yes, some people are aware of NoBull, but nowhere near as many as, say, are in the US, and we have got work to do. So the grassroots work is really where it starts. And when I sat down with the kind of original team, there's about 10 of us now, and we basically sat down and we said, like, what does the next 12 months look like? We're going to focus on London first, and that's where we're going to be operating out of as a European business to start. And we need to kind of build out a grassroots strategy. So, first port of call was obviously the CrossFit community. So we looked at the CrossFit kind of calendar. We looked at things, big moments for our community, like the Open, like SID, obviously the semifinals, the CrossFit Games. And we're like, how do we kind of really create meaningful experiences for our community within those moments? And I touched on obviously the Open activation. You guys will have obviously seen that we did a big activation at SID, and hopefully that was meaningful to many people. And then we've got one coming up actually in August with the CrossFit Games, which I'm really excited about, which is a fan zone experience. So we're working with Roslyn Park and TIO, and we're taking that over for a week. And then the Saturday, Sunday, we'll have live viewing of the CrossFit Games, as well as running workouts throughout the day. We'll have a couple of historic games workouts that people can participate in and compete in. We've got a big retail stand, similar size to SID, and then we have food and drink from some of our favorite kind of partners. And yeah, just bringing people together, and it's going to be a totally free event. It's kind of inspired by like NFL, Wimbledon type fan zone parties, but be authentic and true to CrossFit, and definitely allow people also to train as well. As we know, everyone loves to work out at these type of events. So I'm really excited by that. And that's very much like, what we're doing is we're looking at these moments throughout the calendar and building around them, and just connecting with the community. And then under that, we have some, things that we do. Like every Thursday as a team, we train in a different gym across London. We train with different coaches, and we just want to build genuine relationships, really. And we know that's the best way of kind of getting people exposed to the brand. And it's not necessarily us forcing product on people. It's just making sure that our values align, and hopefully we can help these individuals. And as we help one another, I'm sure the NoBull brand will grow off the back of that.
Brilliant. I think it's it's very easy to see that you do really understand the community and what the values and priorities are. And the thing you were saying earlier about giving the coaches some extra TLC is, you can see how appreciative the coaches are when they come in for their locker room experience, because I think Rob and I probably both have a biased point of view being coaches ourselves, but sometimes you do feel a bit like an unsung hero, and that you're putting in a lot of graft around the edges that doesn't necessarily get appreciated. But really, I think coaches are the glue that keep the CrossFit community together, because they're the ones giving energy to the classes, helping the athletes develop, and
keeping people coming back, stuff like that.
Exactly, spending the extra time and effort to keep the gyms running smoothly. So I think that's massively appreciated. Could you tell us a little bit more about the other sports that NoBull is trying to get into?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because, again, like as I said at the beginning of the interview, or the podcast, sorry, but yeah, NoBull is obviously a brand that understands, what it wants to stand for, and and that's been the case for the 7 years that it's existed, and really our goal is to be the biggest training brand. So when obviously people see, we've just done a really exciting deal with the PGA to be the official training partner. So, for us, we have a particular look on it, and we have a particular way of working. And that way of working with, say, the PGA is to really hopefully influence training within golf, and be part of the PGA and the community, but specifically around training. So, when we sign athletes or we create assets or content, we do it through the lens of training. It's about the work that's done, in the gym that's hopefully going to help you on the course. It's not necessarily about us coming into the golf market and trying to compete with, a FootJoy or whoever. It's about being NoBull, and NoBull is about training. So for me, it's really exciting because, as I say, it's something that I actually have always believed in and always seen as a big opportunity. And I potentially feel that other brands have kind of lost their way when they try and go into multiple different sports, but we're going into sports in a very NoBull way, which is very much focusing around training. So yeah, we're super excited by the PGA. We have some things coming up with the NFL through, our relationship with the Patriots. We also have cycling as well that's coming up. We've done obviously a bit of indoor cycling, for example. But it will always be through training. And I think that's really important to kind of understand. And yes, we will definitely create product within those categories to allow our athletes to perform and allow our community to perform. But, our goal and focus is actually the training element of it. So, for example, golf, I think, Ash, you might have a pair of our golf shoes, that it's a great product and it allows the athlete to perform in golf. But we really are interested in the work that you do in the gym, which allows you to perform at that level in golf. And that will be definitely the stance we take in the way we work in other sports. And there are other sports to come, and I'm really excited about it. We just recently launched the court shoe, which, obviously tennis, for example, is a phenomenal sport. We have Wimbledon going on at the moment. And again, truly understanding, the work that those athletes do in the gym to be able to perform on the court in the way that they do. And as a brand, we're really excited to kind of hopefully be part of that.
That's awesome. I think it's a big reason for why a lot of people get into the gym is to support a sport. And one of the sort of ironic things about how the fitness industry has evolved is that you get a lot of fitness for fitness's sakes. But one of the primary tenets of CrossFit was to regularly try and play new sports. So the purpose of training and conditioning yourself to be so fit and strong is so that you can actually do things better. And I think that angle of connecting the training to the sport doesn't get enough time and attention, because ultimately we should be conditioning ourselves in the gym to unlock and improve our performance outside of the gym and in the real world. So a lot of coaches, I think, will really resonate with that, because people have done strength and conditioning degrees or sports science, which is all about using the gym to get better at your sport, and having that angle, I think, is a really cool, refreshing point of view.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely think,
yeah,
because when it
pleased
comes
to hear
to
it.
the gym itself as well, it's because the gym gives people that aren't relatively sporty an opportunity to express themselves. So then once they do get comfortable in the gym and feel a lot more confident with how their body moves and so forth, then they can start to dabble in other sports. It's like with me, I wasn't a sporty kid at all. And it wasn't until I got into the gym did I then start to then get into other things and then start to find my own way with certain areas. But I think the fact that, as you say, everything kind of always relates back to training, I think is such a nice way of putting it, because it's something that we can all relate to. On no matter what sport you do, everyone does something to try and improve their sport, so that is their form of training. So it's a really nice underlying foundation which we can all agree on.
Yeah, I'm really excited. As I say, we've only really just got started in golf. Let's use that as an example. Like, we have a pro PGA player, Scott Stallings, who, again, you just have to look at him and his profile and his obsessive, training that he does, and he actually participates within like CrossFit regularly as well. And he's just, come on leaps and bounds from doing that and really focusing on that. And then that's meant that, now on the course, he, has performed at kind of that next level and is doing really, really well. And I think that is just a great example of what's to come, and how we'll also, be involved in these other sports and the type of athletes, for example, that we'll kind of work with. And it honestly, it just come, and this is why I love NoBull. It's just like it just ties back into like that simple statement of people who work hard and don't believe in excuses, and that starts in in the gym, and that starts with the training that you do, and then that allows you to perform in other areas of your life. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I think I saw something from a speech from Todd recently where he was talking about exactly that point, and how you select your athletes and brand ambassadors, and how the selection criteria is so strict, and that he'd rather have somebody with 2,000 followers who really embodies the values than somebody who's got 2 million followers that don't align with the vision and values of NoBull. And there was a clip he showed of some of the NoBull CrossFit girls, so like Tia and Katrin and Brooke Wells. And I think the catchphrase was more than an influencer. Could you speak to that, please, and sort of what the thought behind that campaign was, and how that affects the type of athlete you go for when trying to collaborate?
Yeah, I think again, it's just like you as an individual. And again, we look at our code of conduct, we look at our brand values, and we say, does this resonate, with the individual, and, are they true to what we kind of stand for? Because when we're looking at our, partners or athletes, anybody that we're going to work with, we're not looking at it from like, oh, we just want to work with them for the next 6 to 12 months. This is a long-term relationship, and we want them to be with us as a brand, as long as they're, involved in sport, involved in training. And so I think really the idea and where that came from with regards to that campaign, it was a short film that they did at the NoBull Film Festival back in New York. Was just showing that the work that those three actually put in. Because yes, you might first come across them through a social media platform, might see them on Instagram and see that they have this massive following, and they have a certain aesthetic, but the reality is that they put a huge amount of work in to be unbelievable athletes, and we wanted to really celebrate that. And that's really where that film came from, was that we were celebrating Brooke, Katrin, and Tia and the work that they put in to be the best in their sport. And they weren't just influencers, and they weren't just people on social media that had big followings because they had unbelievable bodies. There was far more to it. And then back to your original kind of point on what Todd was saying, with regards to our athletes, I'm a big believer, as obviously Todd is with regards to actual credible, authentic, assets are far more valuable for us as a business and as a brand to grow than, say, just signing or aligning with athletes that potentially have this massive audience but have zero engagement, and zero actual influence on, on their audience, and I think we're becoming more savvy, we as humans, with regards to social media, and with regards to what we're looking for and how we engage. And I think that's good. I think it's really important, because I think authenticity and credibility and people being real is really, really important, because there's a lot of fake stuff out there. And I've loved how NoBull's really kind of led the way there. And that's definitely been a big thing that Todd's really kind of paved. And there's a great thing as well with NoBull as well that I like to celebrate is like Brooke is a fantastic example of growing with the brand. When NoBull signed Brooke Wells, she didn't even have 10,000 followers on Instagram. She's surpassed 1.6 million followers. And as NoBull, when NoBull signed her, they've now got, 1 million plus followers on Instagram and are super highly engaged, and they've grown together and they've believed in it. Brooke, no doubt, would have had lots of different people and lots of different brands approach her, but they've, stayed true to themselves. They've grown together, and that's the same with other athletes as well. And, NoBull always has genuine and deep, meaningful relationships with its athletes. And I think that's something that's definitely really impressive and not always the case with other brands. So.
Yeah, I think that's really refreshing in the social media age to have such stringent selection policy on who you work with. I think since Gymshark did so well with their influencer marketing, everyone has sort of just thought, I need to just get brand representatives, as many of them as I can, without really thinking about whether they embody the brand values, and will just seed kit to anyone and everyone. And like you say, the consumer is getting more savvy, and they can tell when someone's just pushing something because they're getting paid. They don't really care about the product. They've got a discount code, so they want to just get it out there and make a quick buck. Whereas if you're selecting athletes based on their integrity and their alignment with the brand values, you can really feel it. And I think that goes back to a more old-fashioned approach where athletes would get famous because they were good at their sport, not because they were good at social media. And it's so crazy now that you can have people who have massive profiles who aren't actually very good at what they fundamentally do, but they're quite good at playing the game of social media. And I think people are starting to see through that more and more. So picking your influencers wisely is, nice and refreshing, I'd say.
Yeah, I think definitely the part about the authenticity as well. For me, that's so key, because I think when I'm seeing it, just like using myself as a case study here, when I see people's stories and stuff like that, and the brand placements, and it's just, when you just get bored of certain things, and you're just like, the more you keep doing this to me, I just want to mute you and not look at your stuff. And then you've essentially then lost it, because it's not that you're pushing it down someone's face, but the fact that a water bottle is always in a certain place, or this is always in, so I know how marketing is done, and it's a subtle thing, but it starts to kind of grind on you when it is like that. For me, anyway, that's just how I see it. But when I see, say for instance, NoBull, I'm not seeing anyone, just using you as the example, of branding down my face and me just getting, oh fuck's sake, just
yeah. Well, no, and again, like we could have easily entered, we're a relatively big business now, especially in the US, and we could have easily entered the European market and been aggressive with, assets and athletes and influencers and whatever. But again, within our strategy, our focus and priority is the coaches, and the coaches have been, as I say, they are the foundation. They are, what created effectively this brand in the first place, and that's where the journey starts. And then yes, we are obviously working with some athletes and we're building that out, but we're building it out again in a meaningful way and not just signing people for the sake of it. Again, it's been just such a pleasure to work with all these different coaches. I think we did a bit of a kind of recap the other day, and it's like we've trained with over 200 coaches across London in the last 6 months, which has been awesome. And again, I understand and appreciate the value of you guys and other coaches out there, and that's really the foundation to NoBull and what we're doing specifically in Europe at the moment.
Amazing. Quick rewind back to the relationship with CrossFit. I think something that's been noticeable as a spectator is how much more professional the CrossFit Games has become since the partnership with NoBull. Could you speak to that? I know we touched on it earlier in terms of making the athletes feel more special and making it a bit more professional, for, I guess, what the sport deserves. Could you speak to the NoBull plans for CrossFit and it as a sport?
Yeah, again, I think, we always, and this comes really from Michael and Marcus, but we always want to be proud of our work. And if we're not proud of it, then we don't want to do it, and that was obviously kind of the question, I guess, that they asked themselves when, going into the partnership with CrossFit was like, are we going to be proud of it? Can we be proud of it? And they obviously answered yes. And they wanted to do it obviously for the community, and they wanted to do it in a way that was, aligned with NoBull, and making sure whatever experience or whatever we did to be associated with CrossFit and the CrossFit Games specifically, that we were going to be proud of that. And I think that was really shown last year in the first kind of year of sponsorship. And it was really interesting because I don't think people appreciate that it was 3 or 4 months that they had prior to the CrossFit Games happening to turn all of that around. And you just saw kind of the experience that was, in Madison, and everything, we talk about the athlete experience that definitely stood out, with all the lockers and just that detail that, NoBull is obviously known for. So I'm really excited to see what's to come, like you guys are, because if we as a team can achieve that in such a short period of time, it's going to be amazing to see what we can achieve over the next few years. But yeah, as I say, we just make sure that we approach everything in a way that we have a standard, and we don't want to ever kind of be lower than that. And we always want to make sure that we're proud of our work. So, I definitely feel comfortable with what, with the way, the NoBull way, and basically, associating and working with CrossFit. I think hopefully it's only going to elevate things. But yeah, I, like you guys, was super impressed and was kind of a spectator to it last year. This year, from a European standpoint, as I touched on, like, we're going to elevate hopefully the sport, and make it, a bit more approachable from an international standpoint with the fan zone experience. And the fan zone experience is something that hopefully we'll do, in other cities. We have, Paris on our agenda for next year. And I definitely see no reason why we shouldn't be doing the fan zone experience in Paris and London while it's going on in Madison. And hopefully we can work with CrossFit as well to even elevate that experience. And continue to internationalize the sport. And, and again, NoBull's way of working just with like the content that it creates, it's phenomenal content. We have some of the best, in the industry, if, in the world with regards to the creative and the content team. And I think that helps, because when you push that out, and on social and YouTube and TV and whatever, I think it really helps create exposure, but also shows that the level that where CrossFit is and where CrossFit can go. So yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously from my side, it's early days with my kind of involvement in it, and we're obviously focusing a lot in Europe, but yeah, it's really, really exciting. I think definitely nearer the time of the CrossFit Games, or maybe after the CrossFit Games, you guys should interview Todd and specifically focus on the CrossFit Games, because that's definitely something that he's had a huge influence on. So
yeah, that'd be great.
I'd be able to tell you a little bit more about what's to come.
No, we'd absolutely love that.
I'll set that up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Maybe you'll get him a new job somewhere else.
I hope not.
Yeah. Just kidding. That's been amazing, Kitch. Thank you so much. It's great to see things going from strength to strength. Other than the fan zone experience coming up during the CrossFit Games, is there anything else people should be looking out for? I know you've got a new space in Battersea opening at some point this year.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was another big thing, actually, for me when joining NoBull was, explaining to Marcus in particular, my thought on the importance of physical retail, and the importance even more so now because of things like COVID. I think people really want to engage in person. They want to have in-person relationships, and we want to encourage that. So Battersea Power Station, we will have a location in, hopefully opening, back end of this year, we'll see. But, that location will be a mixture of retail. We'll have a town hall for amazing talks and seminars, somewhere that we can really knowledge share. We'll have an amazing community area through a coffee shop. We'll have a training space of sorts. It will not be a gym, but it'll be a space that we can do seminars, for example, within. and just a hub, and somewhere that everyone can come together. And it's not necessarily about like leaving with product. It's just, leaving with a good experience, and hopefully you leave with learning something. So the training club will be launching this year in Battersea, and hopefully you'll see other training clubs across Europe, again aligning with our key city strategy. So, when we enter Paris and Berlin over the next couple of years, you'll see some other spaces come to life. And I think what will be really nice as well is it'll help centralize some of the work that we're doing. So, earlier on in this year, we did this really cool floral takeover with CrossFit District, and we brought to life this floral campaign, which was celebrating some of our great product. And we'll be able to do that on site in Battersea as well as do it external to Battersea. But it will definitely be an amazing space to be a part of, and hopefully, you guys will be able to get down there and enjoy it. And definitely really excited for that, because I feel like in London, for NoBull as a brand, I think we're really going to raise the bar, and then hopefully, take things forward globally with regards to physical experience at NoBull. So.
It's amazing. And do you guys have any, like you mentioned about going into different sports and stuff like that? Have you got any new kit being released, like different types of stuff, like you said about cycling? So have you got anything going that way?
Yeah. So as I say, like, I think without giving too much away, we kind of keep things quite close to our chest. But with regards to NoBull, as I say, you'll have seen the court trainer recently released the golf shoe. We definitely have a few things coming through for outdoor sport. We definitely have a few things coming through for cycling, and potentially a couple of other sports that are played here in the UK. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, we're definitely excited. And then obviously the core training product is always expanding. We have an amazing apparel team that we're really excited internally with regards to where that's going and what products coming out. So yeah, I'm really excited by the product. NoBull. Michael, the other, one of the co-founders, is one of the best designers I know. And I think, obviously we can all say that the product that's been created so far, like we only have to look at the bag, for example, something that was actually built back in 2015 is still obviously a staple piece. And that for me just shows great design where, it continues to have that lifespan and relevance and has its own look and feel. Obviously the super fabric trainer, so when new stuff comes out, it gets me even more excited. And I'm really excited with where the product's going. And NoBull is obviously a brand that's known for its product. So yeah, really excited by that.
Amazing. Kitch, we're up on time. So I just want to say thanks again for your time and lots of interesting insight, and it's cool to hear what's going on behind the horns. Where can people hear more about you?
And also booking for the fan zone stuff, like for some more information about that, because that sounds like it's going to be really cool.
So the fan zone experience will be announced next week. So there'll be a save the date. So it's the first weekend of August. We'll definitely push that out, and I'll probably work with you guys as well to kind of tell more about it with your audience. I'm on Instagram, Sam Kitch London. There's lots of stuff going on there, doing more podcasts, more interviews, hopefully sharing the NoBull story, and sharing a bit more about me. I think, thank you guys for having me, and hopefully we can host you actually with regards to the power station, and maybe do another podcast with regards to actually also meeting some of the NoBull team that's, making all these amazing things in Europe happen, because it's definitely not down to me. It's definitely the team that, we've got here. So
that'd be
cool.
Amazing.
And I'll introduce you to Todd. I think Todd would be an awesome guest to have.
We'd love to have him on.
So cool.
Amazing.
All right. Well,
thank you, Kitch. Very much, mate. We'll catch you soon, mate.
Thank you, Sam, for coming on. Thoroughly enjoyed that. That was really cool to hear about, basically, like how NoBull now actually understand what NoBull stands for. So that was good to see. But it's so cool to see what you guys are up to and kind of where you see the vision of NoBull and how you see it growing. And cannot wait to see how you guys set up the fan zone. That's going to be something special. If it's anything based on what you guys have previously done, that will be something special, and I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to come down and do some of those iconic workouts, because it's a cool space as well, that Tier Cross, isn't it?
Massively, yeah. Lovely out there in the sun.
Yeah, so fingers crossed it stays sunny for that, so we can all get down there and have good fun. But yeah, thanks as always. Thank you for listening to this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, we would love for you to share on your social medias. Don't forget to tag us at lunge.lift and tag Sam at Sam Kitching London. And yeah, from that, thank you as always. We look forward to speaking to you next week.
Thanks, guys.